All right, in this episode, we'll go ahead and cover actually clocking in, shift management, manager management, um, and payroll exports. The previous episode, we covered just kind of your company setup and getting up and running. So let's jump right in here. So before we created the new user, so we'll go ahead and log in with them. And as soon as we get our password correct here, we will be taken directly into the home page. So a few different things that you'll see here is it looks different now that we've logged back in and we have our employee associated with a user and our employee is part of a pay group. That gives us, and we have one pay code. That gives us the ability to actually clock in and start tracking time. So we have our new shift button here. So as soon as we click new shift, remember we went ahead and we added a pay code called a regular to that employee, Bill Smith, and we made it the default. So you can see it actually defaulted in the pay code for us rather than defaulting in any of these other ones. So we're going to go ahead and start a shift. When you start a shift, you'll notice a few things. It starts a clock or a clock timer, but it also down here we actually have the ability to start tasks. So the structure of the application really is you start your shift, which is the outer surrounding grouping for the day or for that shift period in start and end. Inside of a shift, you can have all kinds of different tasks, an unlimited number of task entries, and that's just for categorizing and really seeing what the employee is doing throughout the day. Over here to the right it starts a bar graph. And it will actually break down. So every time you actually, you can always go back, forward, and every time you do that, your time's always growing, so it's going to get bigger. But we can actually see that the regular is part of the shift record. So now that we have about 1 minute of time here, we will go ahead and let's just kick off a task. So we're going to jump straight into an office meeting. We'll go ahead and start that task. And now what you'll see is our shift went from, so our shift's still running, but when you create a shift, it actually creates a task behind the scenes because everything's calculated from tasks. So we ended our shift task, it went, and then created our office meeting task. So it starts the task counter, we can add comments to the shift or to individual tasks, and we'll just say started my first shift, and we'll hit save. So now if we come back to this, we can see that I created a comment, started my first shift. All right, so the next piece that we need to cover is actually comments and review requests. So if you're an employee and let's just say you have a question about this task, or you need to notify your manager that that you started the task late or something, and they need to adjust the time, or a reason for you adjusting the time, because users can actually be given permission to adjust their own time records. Now, if you're going to do that, I recommend the managers be aware of looking at those actual edited records, and we'll go over that here shortly. It's really easy to see when a user has updated their own time. But right off the bat, we'll go ahead and just say I needed to change my pay code /task to lunch. So they meant to clock in with lunch, but they accidentally clocked in as an office meeting. So we'll go ahead and hit request manager review. We'll save this, and what that just did is that actually sent the manager an email, and they'll get that, and it'll pop up, and it'll have that comment in there. The manager can go in and log in and see that review request. Now what we'll do is we'll go ahead and just click on the manager dashboard. Since we are doing this all as one user, essentially I sent that review request to myself. So you'll actually see here we have a few other review requests, but this is the manager dashboard. There'll be some new features coming in here shortly. Right now we have review requests and open shifts. So here's our review request. You can also see, well, when you're on any other page other than the home page, if you have a running clock, it will be yellow to show that you're in a task, or green if you're just on your shift. So if we go back to the home page, it'll match this. The other thing you can see from the home page is a few little widgets here. We have the pay period, the current pay period, date range. We have the next pay date, and then this little guy right here are the number of review requests. So as an administrator of the entire system, I will actually see every single review request for every single pay group up here. If you are just a manager of, say, that individual pay group that we created called IT department, and what we can do is actually show you, we can add us as a manager to that. You would actually only see one review request because we just created the first one just a few moments ago. So let's go ahead and come in here, IT department. We're going to add ourselves as a manager. We are Bill Smith, and we'll save that. All right, so now we'll still see everything because we are a administrator. But if we were to create an entirely new user, we came over here, created a new user, and made them specifically, a manager, you'll see that it actually defaults in the ability to be a pay group manager, which is a default value of manager. So if we created this user, saved them, and then came back to the pay groups and added them as a manager of that pay group, for starters, when they click on pay groups, they're only going to see IT department in this list. They will not see any of these other pay groups. They would not have access to any of these pay groups. Also, the manager, if they clicked on pay codes, they would only see pay codes. Well, they would see all pay codes, but when they drill in to see like the employees of a pay code, they would only see the employees that are associated with the pay group that they are actually managing. That way, managers can't see other employees' pay rates, etc. All right, so back to the manager dashboard. So here, again, we're still an administrator, so we're seeing everything. If we were a manager, you'd also only see the open shifts associated with that pay group and what that manager can actually see. So here's our actual review request that just came in from Bill Smith that we sent. So we can actually, if we click on the link, it'll take us directly to what we call the manager's pay period details view. This provides a lot of information. This provides the breakdown of employees and their tracked time records. This breaks down, everything for that pay period by pay code. So you can see we're in the IT department right now. We're the only user in there. And so far for the day, we've started our shift, which is regular, and then we also did an office meeting. So what we're going to do here is jump over to the employee timesheet. If we had more than one employee, you'd see the breakdown, and I'll show you that here shortly. But we can see a few things right off the bat. A, there's no employee approval. So that goes back to that, the setup and preferences, where we have the ability to send the pay period review request job, which emails all managers and employees if you have that checkbox selected. So we can see that this employee has not approved. Obviously they haven't because the pay period is not over. The next thing we see though here is this review request. It's highlighted in red. So right off the bat, we can tell that we have a review request that we have to go in and manage here. Not only that, it has the one here, and this little counter right here also shows review requests, so you can see at a quick glance that you need to go in and do something. So if we drill in here, you can kind of just follow the red highlights, and we'll drill in for this work week, and we'll drill in for the shift, and right off the bat, you can see that two things. Remember, we created a comment for that one shift record, so if we click that, we can see started my first shift. The next thing we can see is following the red, oh, we have a review request on this task. So we click the task, we can see that the employee said I needed to change my pay code or task to lunch. So they accidentally added it as office meeting. So what we can do is we can actually manually adjust this for them. And we'll go ahead, come in here, and we'll say, oh, they need to change it from office meeting to, let's see, I don't have lunch, I didn't add it to them. We'll say it is dispatch. Review request complete from employee. So you have to put an edit reason in no matter what to save, it'll warn you. But we can go ahead and now save this. So we did change it from office meeting to dispatch. You'll see another icon here that pops up is this little pencil. So this pencil will always exist if there's ever been any sort of manual intervention or manual edit to that track time record. So it's a nice way, again, when a manager or employee goes to review that pay period, they can see at a quick glance things that have been touched. So now that we've done that, we'll go ahead and turn off the manager's review request, and we will say changed from office meeting to dispatch. And we'll click save. So now you'll see the red's all gone. We know that both of these had shift comments and this dispatch was updated. So that's really, the pay period details view. You can see that you'll see some other details over here, the next pay period, whether or not it's been approved and whether or not it has been exported. So let's jump back to the home here. And so our clock's still running, timer's going up, bar graph's growing. The next thing really to cover is going to be appointments, both AlarmBiller and Sedona Office side of things, and then getting into the payroll approval and payroll export process. And to do that, I'm going to go ahead and log in with a different user, just because it will, I have more real data. I actually have pay periods that we can approve. Oh, actually, before we do that, over here on this manager dashboard, you'll see that review request is gone. And let's just say we wanted to handle another review request. You can actually handle the review request directly from here. You do not have to click and go view the details and find that individual track time record. You can just do it straight from here and say, okay, looks good. And we'll go ahead and just turn this off. And it just disappears. All right, so in the next episode, we'll cover the more of the manager's role of approving and getting the payroll exported, and then your Sedona Office and AlarmBiller integrations. So we'll end the shift and start fresh.